this story caught my eye mainly because I'd actually seen Jon Prosser's original videos where he leaked the iOS interface that came with iOS 26 months ago. So I didn't think of much of it at the time because you usually get some YouTubers doing this sort of thing. You kind of go, well, obviously he must know someone at Apple or something that showed him on the side. But now it's turned into a thing where Apple is suing him over the fact that he did that, but did it in a way that was suspect, at least according to them. And there's a couple of things to unpack in here too, because Apple's gone pretty heavy-handed with its civil lawsuit here, and alleging quite a few things that whether or not they're criminal or not, which is the idea that he induced via payment of a third party who had access to an Apple employee that could, get access to that Apple employee's development iPhone that had it's already getting complicated. But anyway, and that they got access to the phone, and then he was able to do some sort of screen share where he recorded all the interface elements so he could do his own mock-ups so that it didn't look like he actually was just doing the screen record that he did or whatever. And as far as this, I've seen his videos, and again, he's one of these guys that, you either like his shtick or you don't. He's kind of, I don't know if crass is the right word to put there. Crass is probably too harsh because it's not as if it's like completely foul how he comes across, but I remember some of his earlier videos literally had a toilet in the background, that probably gives you the impression of where he sits. And he was also infamous for leaking a bunch of a squared off Apple Watch design a few years ago that discredited him a bit when it turned out not to be true. So so there's a whole quagmire of stuff there with that sort of thing. But then there's also this other component that. The Apple lawsuit, I hate to break to anyone that loves Apple, but they are a corporation, and they are taking the heavy-handed approach here. And it kind of feels like, given that this guy might be getting some decent ad money through YouTube, but I don't think he's got the kind of money that would sustain a months or years long lawsuit against a corporation the size of Apple. And if he were to lose, he'd be really done at the end of it, and it kind of comes across more like an intimidation tactic, because I don't know if they would have had the same approach if it was like the Wall Street Journal or some other big entity that had funds behind them to support a sustained litigation.
Yeah, it's an interesting situation. I think probably the base behind Apple's allegations and the nature of the allegations, that there's a payment, that there's a chain, is to show that there's proof of, I guess, what they would term espionage.
Trade secrets. And I guess that's what they're getting at. Of course, whether or not they can prove any of this and whether or not any of it's true is another matter altogether. But if you make that claim, then at least you've got a case, I guess. And to be fair to Apple here, you would expect that they must have some evidence or some smoking gun, because I don't think they could mount an allegation like this without some sort of, I don't know, at least what they presume is evidence. But it's interesting, really, because at the end of the day, this isn't as if he's revealed that Steve Jobs has got an iPod in his pocket. It's it's a design. Is it functionality? You could tell me this better. You probably studied a bit more, but it doesn't really, to me, give away any trade secrets. It just tells me what the next iteration of Apple's, GUI is going to look like. And to be honest, as an Apple user, a very long-term Apple user, I don't care. Apple changes and Microsoft and Google change these things on me all the time, and I just have to put up with it. So seeing a static version of what my phone might look like, as indeed you have
for us quite legally at the start of this cast, shown us the beta version for iOS 26. It's yeah, great. That's what it looks like. I don't know how anyone can get any advantage out of that apart from having their curiosity satisfied.
Absolutely. Well, we'll watch where the story goes because, Prosser's categorically denied that it went down that way, whatever that means. And I have to imagine that, like I said, I am curious as to whether or not Apple is trying to use a massive stick here just to deter people. That's another thing that I'm curious about.
I would say that there must be, part of that in there, as much as I think they must believe that there must be some case to answer, even if they don't have a complete case.